Oh hey, what up? Slow the fuck down. We're all heading the same way. Sorry about that. Some people really have no manners. Anyway, what up fuckers? It's me, Andy. Welcome to Video Game Deathmatch. You've just found me evacuating my apartment building because we've received an alert that a giant monster is going to make landfall soon and will likely be passing through the city. Situations like this make me think of one of my favourite fantasy genres, the giant monster movie. Video games have always seemed like a perfect avenue to explore these sorts of ideas in exciting and different ways, and yet, more often than not, they really struggle to reach the heights of 1986's Rampage. But if we're talking classic giant monsters, you can't ignore the OGs, Godzilla and King Kong. Godzilla started his time with video games in 1983 with Godzilla on the Commodore 64, developed by Glenn Fisher and published by Codeworks. And ignoring pinball and pachinko games, Godzilla has gone on to star in a colossal 54 games. Now, a fair few of those are mobile games, but he has also appeared as a guest character in 9 other games. King Kong got his start a little earlier in 1982 with King Kong for the Atari 2600. Now, Kong has some comparatively leaner offerings on the video game front, with only 11 main title appearances and 2 cameos. For this episode, I'm going to be discussing 2004's Godzilla Save the Earth and 2023's Skull Island Rise of Kong. 2 games, 20 years apart. Let's see which one is better. So join me as I wrap my head around the horrifying mysteries of the universe for Video Game Deathmatch: Godzilla Save the Earth versus Skull Island Rise of Kong. Godzilla Save the Earth was developed by Pipeworks Software and published by Atari in 2004 for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. It was a sequel to 2002's Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, which was released on the GameCube and later ported to Xbox. Sales figures aren't all that reliable from this far back, but it's estimated to have sold over 500,000 copies. Skull Island Rise of Kong was developed by Iguana Bee and published by Game Mill Entertainment for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, Nintendo Switch, and PC. I couldn't find any sales figures for the game yet, but I did see that its all-time peak players on Steam stands at 22. Mildly different levels of success there. Full disclosure, I was originally going to use the much maligned PlayStation 3 Godzilla game as a more recent example, but then I looked at the resale market for that game and promptly died on the inside. I would not pay £250 for a good game, let alone a notoriously shitty one. If game preservation was in any sort of good state, we wouldn't be in this situation in the first place. But regardless, we are where we are, and where I am is just heading outside. I've been told we're being shepherded towards the bridge out of town. Well, I'm just following the crowd, to be honest. If this is your first time with Video Game Deathmatch, the 2 games will be going head to head over the course of 5 different categories. For this episode, those categories will be presentation, story, maps, monsters, and gameplay. Whichever game gets the most wins will be declared the victor. They must have spotted it off the coast. That's earlier than expected. Shit. Nah, fuck that. Everyone else is running, so I'm going to do that too. I'll see you at the bridge. Round 1. Presentation. Ooh, fucking hell, it's busy here. But that's to be expected, I guess. The crowd's moving quite slowly along, so I'll just take this time to shuffle along and talk a little bit about presentation. So, you might find it unfair to pit a 20-year-old PlayStation 2 game against a year-old PlayStation 5 game. But let's try to remember that fidelity is not the most important factor in presentation. I'd argue it's possibly the least important thing. When Godzilla Save the Earth was released, the following games were dominating the gaming culture: Halo 2, Ninja Gaiden, Burnout 3, GTA San Andreas, and Half-Life 2. These are what I would argue were the pinnacle of the time. In this context, Godzilla Save the Earth looks solid. It's not on the level of those games, but I'd say it's somewhere just below that. Certainly in the higher tiers of that era.
Sorry.
Fucking people. I don't do well with crowds, I'm sorry. Anyway, the characters are distinctly rendered, very clear models so you can make out every little nuance of these iconic designs, with some great character-accurate animations. The locations are nicely detailed, with lots of buildings and natural formations to make things feel authentic and distinct. There are even animated cutscenes to help along the story, as paper thin as it may be, and there's some really great music. If you know Godzilla, you know how significant a role the music plays in setting a scene. The terror or the majesty, the towering scale, it's always conveyed through the score. This game is no different. Big and booming in all the right places, albeit with a smattering of weird early 2000s electronic dance beats thrown in. It is just, if you were around at the time, this is unavoidable, but it works regardless. Skull Island Rise of Kong may be newer, but it is massively lacking in all key areas. The cave painting intro cutscene is a novel way of setting up the backstory, and easily the most creative visual choice in the entire game. Everything else is, speaking bluntly, dog vomit wretched. Most cutscenes are done in-engine, sometimes animated, sometimes static images with narration filling in the gaps. A really lazy choice that I recall hampering a lot of the storytelling in last year's Redfall. This method is particularly misguided here because the models suck so fucking much. They're bland and characterless. Kong's face looks like a scan of a cheap knockoff toy you might find in the toy aisle of a bargain bin shop. These aren't designs that are going to do a lot of heavy lifting if you're going to decide to cut corners elsewhere, and the animations are very, very poor when they do happen. Everything in the game moves too swiftly for what are supposed to be giant monsters. No thought was put into how these characters should move. They don't even move authentically for regular-sized gorillas, honestly. Any movement from Kong himself is lacking impact. Sometimes the camera shakes, but it's so rare and looks more like a faint quiver, so it comes across more like a glitch than a deliberate aesthetic choice. And given the state of the game's camera, this is entirely possible. If you move the camera in the wrong direction, in the wrong place, it will freak out on you. Sometimes the camera will even start pushing back against your movement rather than just stopping. You're constantly at war with the goddamn camera. These are the kind of things that plagued games when camera controls were brand new, not something like 25 years later. We should have worked this out by now. Outside of the camera, other issues include Kong getting stuck on scenery, especially common when he's climbing vines, and sometimes enemies will glitch through walls never to be seen again. The game honestly looks like a remaster of an Xbox game that would have been considered shitty on release. But the remaster seems like it was done on an Xbox 360. The textures are vibrant enough, but lacking in a tangible quality that would help immerse you in this world a little bit more. It's quite hilariously dated in every single way. The music is the only area where I felt like someone in the game was delivering what was intended. Big pounding beats, epic orchestrations. It feels fitting for a character of Kong's considerable stature. I cannot fault the score at all in this game. It really deserved a better game surrounding it, because composer Ronnie Antares and Camilo Stega did an incredible job here. Oh fuck no. It's here! Fuck. He's going to pull the bridge down. never been so glad to be at the end of a queue before. Fuck. What the fuck just flew over my head? Is that the bridge? Oh Jesus, fuck. The whole street's coming down. Duck in this alley to avoid the dust. Oh. Shit, I forgot to wrap up. Sorry. So, despite being 19 years... Oh, got a head rush. Despite being 19 years older than its competitor, Godzilla Save the World does pretty much everything better than Rise of Kong by a quite considerable margin. So the King of Monsters takes this round. Oh, I need to sit down. Round 2. Story. Oh, hey again. I've been trying to head as far away from that massive fucking thing as humanly possible. Thankfully, it seems to be messing with the other side of the city right now. Oh, in hindsight, I really should have left the apartment sooner, not stayed in my apartment rewatching that Christmas episode of The Bear. But the allure of a good story is hard to shake, right? Even giant monster movies need a compelling hook to keep you engaged between the destruction, and the same can be said for giant monster video games. Godzilla Save the Earth story is supremely goofy in all the right ways. Reminiscent of the late Showa, early Heisei era of Godzilla movies, an alien race called the Vortak, these were the antagonists in the previous game, return to seize control of the G-cells. This is Godzilla's DNA that the humans have finally managed to harvest for some reason. The Vortak gain control of the Earth's most dangerous monsters, and Godzilla stomps from location to location and beats their ass one at a time, before ultimately facing off with his own horrifying black hole clone, Space Godzilla. It knows what it wants to do, and it just does it without any complications, which is exactly what you want from a Godzilla movie if it's not going to be delving into meaty subtext like the original Shin Godzilla or Godzilla -1. You just want some uncomplicated carnage with a vague justification, and that's what this game delivers, perfectly. Surprisingly, to me at least, Skull Island Rise of Kong is not based on the very popular Monsterverse movie, but rather a series of graphic novels, King Kong of Skull Island by Joe DeVito. Wow, you can see it pretty clearly from here. Seems to be charging at the freeway, right? Ooh, there it goes. Just blew apart like a toddler's Lego. So, at the start of Skull Island, you play Kong's mother. After a frustrating tutorial stage, you see her track down Kong and his father, only for both parents to die at the hands, or claws, of Gore, a feathery T-Rex looking thing, with Kong being the only survivor of the attack. What the hell is that? Can you hear that? What the fuck's that up there? Something in the sky, it's like a light. Oh fuck! Oh, a fucking cop car just fell out this... Oh, double fuck! Oh, it's raining fucking cars. That massive cunt shotgun blasted rush hour at me. Gotta go. Woo. Look. I'm heading into that convenience store. Oh, Jesus. That was insane. I don't normally run this much. Whoa, fuck me, that was close. Toyota Yaris just burst through the doorway. Oh. On the bright side, that at least might deter other people from coming in. Now I've got this whole place to myself. All the stolen snacks I can eat. While I deal with my empty stomach, let's get back to Kong. So, after losing both his parents, little baby Kong embarks on a journey of revenge. I guess Kong is smart enough to grasp the concept of revenge, but not quite smart enough to strategize for it, as he stomped his way around this island trying to track down Gore. There's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to the way the story unfolds. He seemingly spends most of his childhood and a short chunk of his adult life struggling to find a large dinosaur on a relatively small island. It's not even like the thing's hiding from him. I think Kong's just kind of a dumbass. Kettle chip? The salt and vinegar? No? Okay. So, stomping around looking for a fight suits Godzilla because it's baked into his character. He senses another monster and he heads out to mollywop them. Kong's journey, being so haphazard and largely pointless, feels a lot less engaging because they gave him such a strong emotional motivator. If he was just out to prove he's the alpha predator on the island, this meandering approach to seeking out Gore would make more sense, as he'd want to build himself up in order to face him. But if he's solely driven by revenge, he should be a lot more motivated in his actions, and the game does very little to convey that. Oh man. These are making my tongue hurt. That's how you know they're good. I better get a drink. Sometimes it pays to keep things simple. The winner for this round is Godzilla. Cheers. Round 3. Maps. I should not have eaten that third packet. What else am I supposed to do here? The TV isn't working, and I don't smoke. The importance of a good environment is a big part of the appeal of these movies. A Godzilla entirely set in a desert doesn't have the same pop as one set in a city. You could always tell which of the movies were really cheaping out when they were mostly set out in the middle of nowhere. Godzilla Save the Earth offers a great variety and detail in its gaming environments. The range of cities offer landmarks such as construction sites, sports arenas, functioning harbours, highways and airports. You'll see little cars driving around on the streets. Everything has a sense of life to it, and that makes the battles feel more visceral and turn. Even the barren wastelands are not so barren. They offer unique features like rock formations or bodies of water, or military bases. These add variety to the fights, and they accurately convey the scale of the monsters and offer some satisfying environmental damage.
This is an emergency broadcast. The impact zone involving the non-terrestrial entity is to be targeted by a nuclear payload. All military units will be pulling out. Any survivors still in the area must evacuate immediately.
Oh Christ, they're gonna blow the place up. I guess I should probably leave. I think there's a way out back here. Yeah. I'll just keep heading in the opposite direction of all that bollocks. It served me well so far. Ish. The environments in Rise of Kong are kinda dreadful. Instead of giving you a clear path around, the game offers large open maps for no reason other than it to become some sort of wasteful industry standard. It's baffling because the traversal is largely one way, so it should really just be offering linear levels. One of the roads out of town is just this way. Hopefully there's not a big crowd here again. I do see a few other people heading this way though. Anyway, the open nature of the map in Kong means you are wandering around, often aimlessly, trying to find your next objective and getting into combat encounters that don't really progress the story at all. And there's no actual mini-map to follow in the game. And since no one wants to keep pausing the game to check a map screen, you'd hope the maps would be intuitive to navigate. But they're not. There's nothing about these maps that are memorable, so you frequently forget where you're going if you take a wrong turn. This is the opposite of intuitive design. If anything, it feels like it was deliberately obtuse just to help pad out the final playtime. This makes sense because I seriously doubt this game would have taken as long for me to finish if the maps made any fucking sense. For its variety and commitment to immersion, along with its impactful simplicity, the winner of this round is Godzilla. Oh, I see an army checkpoint up ahead. I guess they're helping usher out the survivors.
Hi, we're just trying to get out of the city.
What the fuck?
Help!
They just shot those people! I should be safe behind this car. Is that Jet? Oh, Jesus! Round 4. Monsters. I'm okay, guys. Jesus Christ. They just blew up all the roads out of town. What the fuck's going on? I'm walking back the way I came. The only plan I can think of right now is to get back into the city and find my way into one of the subway tunnels. I think those tunnels go like pretty much everywhere, and a few of them lead out of the city. It's that, or I get stepped on or shot. At least in the tunnels, I only have to worry about the rats and getting jumped by hobos. And I think I could take one of those in a fight. My diet is at least marginally better than theirs. So while we get there, let's talk about the roster of monsters on offer in both games. Godzilla Save the Earth draws from decades of Godzilla movies for its assortment of kaiju. Across the various game modes, there is a superb roster of monsters on offer to fight and to play as. 18 playable monsters in total, including 2 different versions of Godzilla, 2 different Mecha Godzillas, other fan favourites like King Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra, and one of my personal favourites, Anguirus from Godzilla Raids Again. There are also 3 unplayable enemies, Batra, Millennium, and Ibira, another one of my personal favourites. Shit, wait! Let's just hide here a second. Wait, shh. Okay, I think they're gone. Rise of Kong, ironically, comes up quite short. The enemies consist of a couple of dinosaurs of varying sizes, mostly just variants of T-Rexes and Raptors, and a pterodactyl. There are also a few spiders and crabs. Nothing about their designs suggests anything particularly prehistoric or a lost step in the evolutionary ladder. They just look like larger versions of things we've already seen. The monster designs are all very uninspired. They're still here. Jesus, they are not messing around. Let's not go down that way. Godzilla having access to more iconic monsters is not an excuse for failing in this round. Peter Jackson's remake and the Skull Island movie both featured memorable and gruesome creations that felt like they belonged in the same universe as the majestic Kong. A little imagination could have given Rise of Kong a fighting chance, but they preferred to put their time and energy into... I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. The winner for this round is quite predictably Godzilla. I think I know where I am now. There's a subway just a few blocks from here. Let's go. Round 5. Gameplay. Oh, they've turned the sirens off. I doubt that's for a good reason. We're making good progress so far. If we can get to that station in time, we should be able to make it out of the area before the bomb drops. It'll be tight, but I think we can do it. For the final round, we get to the most critically important element of any game: gameplay. People didn't get hopelessly addicted to Tetris because they love blocks. The way a game plays and reacts to the player is the thing that makes us fall in love with a game. Even story-heavy games need a solid gameplay hook to keep you engaged. Otherwise, you may as well just watch a movie. Godzilla Save the Earth, quite smartly, doesn't complicate things. It knows full well what people enjoy about these movies, and it doesn't try to overthink it. It's simple and easy to grasp, with just enough attack types to keep things interesting. Strikes, throws, and special attacks. Every attack feels tangible, carries weight to it, and the pace of movement lends itself nicely to the subjects. There's a fantastic element I noticed during a fight between Godzilla and King Ghidorah, where we hit our specials at the same time, and the beams meet in the middle, resulting in a massive explosion that causes damage to anyone caught in it. Helicopters and UFOs hover around the fights and shoot at you, so you can swat them out of the air for extra points. The entire environment can be destroyed around you during your fights, either by hitting them, throwing an enemy into them, or just blasting the hell out of them with your special. The monsters interact with the environments just right too. Throwing an enemy into a building, or blasting them into one, will see them bounce off the now collapsing structure, knock them on top of a building, and it will collapse underneath them. Everything feels tangible. The story mode is a series of escalating fight sequences interspersed with challenges, usually destroying alien spaceships or military equipment, culminating in a big boss fight at the end. There are also challenge modes, with each challenge unlocking as you progress through the main story. A lot of them are shooter-style mini-games that see you blasting down X amount of Y within a time limit, but there are also other challenges like having to wrangle 3 monsters and throw them into individual pens to contain them. There's some significant variety on offer here, certainly enough to make for a fun break from the already really strong gameplay. Melee mode is a fatal 4-way match with multiple different game rule types. You can have a free-for-all, 2-on-2 team battles, a rampage-style destruction mode, or team destruction. The camera pulls out so you can see every monster on screen at the same time, just in case you want to play with your friends on a sofa. Those moments where the camera has to pull really far back really emphasise the scale of these battles quite nicely too. There are numerous unlocks available to the player, new monsters, new cities, galleries, all through accruing points while playing the game, accessing new content by just playing the game. So what a wild concept in 2024. There's a wealth of things to do in this game, and all of them are massive amounts of fun. Fuck. The army are blocking the road ahead. I can see the entrance to the subway from here, but if I run out there, their guns are just going to turn me into human pulled pork. I need to bide my time. Rise of Kong, to put it as gently as I can. I've had bleeding piles that were less irritating than playing this game. Let's start with the tutorial, which is among the worst I've ever experienced. For starters, it doesn't lock any ability up until it needs to teach you it, so you could end up using your primal rage power way ahead of the point where the game's actually going to teach you how to use it. It also introduces skills that you won't be using once the main game begins, which immediately get locked behind an arduous skill tree. So why bother putting things in the tutorial if we don't need them for a few more hours? Just teach us them at the time. They massively complicate traversal too. There are too many jumping mechanics for this franchise. Kong honestly shouldn't be jumping this goddamn much, and when he does jump, the impact is not really felt. But jumping is never guaranteed to work. Unless you're leaping off the exact right spot and landing on the exact right spot, odds are you're going to get stuck or fall off. Even when you unlock the special aimed leap, the targeting is so wonky and inconsistent that you might still end up eating shit on a cliff face instead of hitting your next platform. Getting around the island is a chore due to the lack of a minimap, as mentioned before. They instead opt for a raw mechanic that will help you guide Kong to the next nearest objective. However, it doesn't determine the difference between an important objective and a meaningless side objective. And the raw feature doesn't even work half the fucking time. When Kong roars, a small firework display is supposed to emerge over the place of interest, but it doesn't point you in that direction. You have to hope you're A, close enough to the location to spot the markers, and B, looking in the right direction. And the raw meter also happens to be where you get your primal rage powers from. Two entirely different opposing mechanics using the same goddamn power bar. You could end up accidentally using one when you needed to use the other. The game is frustrating in so many ways. It will tell you to clear an area to continue your progress, so you struggle through that and get a skill point to unlock a new ability. Cool, I guess that's what it wanted to do in the first place. But But then the game tells you that you can't progress because you need to unlock an ability that wasn't even available to you in the skill tree. So you need to backtrack more, using that vague fucking nonsense known as the raw function, to find something else to do. Because there's no fucking map. When you're not jumping like an idiot or getting lost like a stupid bastard, you will be spending most of your time fighting. And oh boy, the presence of a parry, roll and lock-on feature suggests a deep combat system, but the combat encounters do not actually give you any reason to engage with them. Every fight boils down to hitting a thing, usually just using the one button, until that thing fucking dies. If there are too many of them and it starts looking like a Skull Island mugging, then rolling is occasionally handy for making space, but the lock-on feature will get you killed immediately in those instances. There's no visual indicators to tell you if you're even doing damage to an enemy, no health bar, no visual alerts that damage is registered, so you can't tell if you're even making progress until they start flashing to indicate you can perform a finisher on them. For example, an early crab boss kept beating me because I was constantly trying to outmaneuver and hit it. Nothing was working. Even rolling behind them to attack did nothing. My mistake was trying to fight this as though I were playing a smart game. And then I just started spamming the throw button and lobbing rocks at him until he died. I wasted so much time because the game couldn't tell me if I was actually making any progress. It's a punishingly bad time. I don't mind a game getting the better of me when I know I had a fair shot. But that's not the case here because it's such a poorly made game. But But this is all assuming the combat even works at the time. And sometimes the game will just fucking break. I found myself freezing after hitting a move while in lock-on mode, and I couldn't resume fighting until I shut it off. I also managed to shoulder barge an enemy through the map. Thankfully, it wasn't in a section where I needed to beat all the enemies to progress, or I would have drop-kicked that fucking disc into the sun. For a game so reliant on combat, having a bad combat system is a major failing. Having a broken one is pure fucking death. Okay, fuck this. I need to just fucking run or die out here. The final verdict. Oh, for fuck's sake. I feel like I took a cement block as an enema. Oh, hey there. On the bright side, it looks like I made it into the subway. Only a slight negative. An explosion knocked me down here, and that building collapsed on top of me. I think I can... No, okay. I'm pretty sure my leg's facing the wrong way. It's a good thing I'm in shock. Oh. And there it is. I guess the bomb's coming. The winner for this episode of Video Game Deathmatch is Godzilla Save the Earth. The fact that a game from 20 years ago can hold up this well and utterly outshine a game from last year is both a testament to the artistry of game devs of the previous eras and a brutal indictment of the state of the industry in the 2020s. A report from The Verge claims publisher GameMill saddled the developers with an absurdly small production window of only a year and essentially abandoned the devs at that point, leaving them to struggle to put together a game in time. I have played other Iguana B games and they've put together some good stuff. What Lies in the Multiverse, which they co-developed, was one of my favourite games of 2022, but I don't think more time or money would have made Rise of Kong an overlooked gem, or even a good game, to be honest. You can see the bones of an idea in Rise of Kong, but it's a very drab looking skeleton. But a negligent, borderline predatory publishing process turned a boring game into one of the worst I've ever played. And before you say, play more games, like a smartass, I need to make it crystal clear that I've played all the bad games you can think of, and even a few you probably don't know. I seek out bad games because usually there's some sort of comedic value in a purely bad game. You either find something transcendentally funny, or you might even learn a thing or two about good game design by studying everything these games did wrong. I can't even find that sort of value in Rise of Kong. Even if it wasn't broken, it's not ambitious enough to be remotely interesting. So that's me for another episode of Video Game Deathmatch. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy the show, please follow or subscribe on the podcast platform of choice, and be sure to recommend it to your friends, family, or lesser enemies. You can follow me on Twitter at truly_defective to keep up to date on the podcast and other video game related musings. Eventually I'll get a social media presence for the podcast. I just can't be arsed right now. So I'll see you again, but in the meantime, don't forget to get a life,